Imagine a dating app, a gig economy job board, a venture capital firm, and like an indie record label. Imagine they all had a baby.
Right.
Now imagine that baby had a deeply rigid moral compass, dictating exactly who was allowed to talk to whom and for what purpose.
Yeah, that is a lot to wrap your head around.
It is. But that is the staggering, radically ambitious blueprint we are unpacking today. Welcome to the deep dive.
And we are really looking at an ecosystem designed to completely dismantle and rebuild how creators, consumers, and businesses interact, like right from the ground up.
Exactly. And just to lay out our sources for you today, we're pulling from a really detailed transcript by a creator named Cord Schneckenberg.
Right, Cord Schneckenberg.
Yeah, and this was recorded sometime between 2019 and 2022, along with some supplementary structural documents outlining his vision for the parent company.
Which was actually originally registered in Missouri back in 2013 as Brickbox Studio.
Oh, wow, 2013.
Yeah, but it later evolved into what is now known as Holy LLC.
Right, Holy LLC. So he calls this massive interconnected platform a spark beacon. And, okay, let's unpack this. Because we live in a world where gig workers are, increasingly isolated.
Yeah, totally.
And creator platforms act more like these digital landlords just taking a cut of your work. But this source presents this incredibly complex attempt to synthesize everyone's needs and assets into a single unified network.
Yeah, it's definitely not just a software update. It is an attempt at a completely new industry model.
A total structural paradigm shift.
Exactly, and it's built entirely on this principle of mutual fulfillment.
Mutual fulfillment.
The foundational idea here is that no one enters this ecosystem empty-handed. Every single participant's specific need is structurally mapped to another participant's have.
So it's basically designed so that isolated individuals don't have to navigate the fiction of the open market all by themselves.
Right. Exactly. But, a philosophy of mutual fulfillment is completely useless if these people can't actually find each other in the real world.
Right, which is the hard part.
Yeah. So before we get into the massive software engine he designed to categorize all this human capital, we really need to understand the ethos driving it.
The underlying philosophy.
Yeah. Schneckenberg argues that standard businesses inherently fail at achieving a win-win because they are structurally selfish.
Structurally selfish. That makes sense. They're built for extraction, not connection.
Right. They optimize entirely for their own bottom line.
Right.
When a platform only cares about its own scale, that naturally creates win-lose or even lose-lose scenarios for the people actually providing the labor or the content.
Yeah, we see that all the time.
Exactly. So the system Schneckenberg outlines is built on a structural mandate. An entity with a need inherently possesses something to offer.
Right.
It sounds basic, but when applied at scale, it changes everything. Like, a job seeker needs income, certainly, but they offer talent and time.
And the employer desperately needs that talent to function, and they offer the income.
Exactly. The spark beacon's job is to ensure neither side is exploiting the other.
Okay, but I have to push back a little here.
Sure.
When you strip it down to talent for income, isn't that really just the underlying mechanic of basic supply and demand? We already have massive digital marketplaces doing exactly that.
That's a fair point.
So how does a spark beacon elevate this beyond the standard digital bulletin board where freelancers just beg for gigs?
What's fascinating here is that the distinction lies entirely in the mechanism of connection.
Yeah.
Schneckenberg heavily criticizes standard marketplaces for relying on static profiles.
Static profiles, like a resume.
Exactly. You put your resume or your portfolio out there, and you just wait. Your profile sits idle while you hope an algorithm favors you.
Right. It's super passive.
Right. The Spark Beacon ecosystem, however, actively utilizes algorithmic matchmaking components and highly specific query results to force a connection.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it isn't passive at all. It's active curation.
Okay, so it's less like a traditional job board and more like a chemical reaction.
I like that.
The platform identifies that you are, say, an unstable element missing a specific electron, and it forcefully bonds you with the exact person who has it to spare.
That is a much more accurate way to look at it, actually. He places a massive emphasis on empowerment through combination.
Right.
The goal is to locate people who have incredible vision or raw talent, but utterly lack the logistical resources.
Or the capital.
Exactly. The capital or the manufacturing connections to execute it.
Yeah.
The system actively pushes those missing pieces together so the reaction can actually happen.
It removes the networking fiction that usually kills great ideas before they even start.
Yes.
Which inevitably leads to the question of logistics, right? Because how do you catalog human needs and assets on a global scale to make those chemical reactions happen?
Right. How does it actually work?
Yeah, and that brings us to what the source calls Kaleidicloud.
And that's pronounced cloud.
Right, Kaleidicloud. And Schneckenberg is explicit that this is not a search engine where you just type in a keyword. It is an opportunity engine.
An opportunity engine.
Yeah.
Yeah, it acts as the digital medium where these complex human resources are categorized, quantified, and dynamically linked.
And the structural core of Kaleidicloud is its highly specific 7-color taxonomy.
Which is so interesting.
Right. Everyone and everything within the network is color-coded based on what they need and what they offer. It turns human capital into this literal visual spectrum.
I know, I love that.
I am obsessed with how rigid and specific this taxonomy gets. So let's break down the spectrum, starting with the baseline. First, we have pink.
Right, pink?
Pink represents consumers. They're pretty straightforward. They need goods and services, and in return, they offer money and referrals to fuel the network.
Yeah, the foundational layer.
Exactly. Then there's red, which is for positions and payroll.
Right.
These are individuals seeking traditional jobs and benefits that actually align with their passions, offering their raw, dedicated talents in return.
Okay, and then orange covers the freelancers. They need project-based work, income, and crucially, portfolio building. And they offer specific, specialized services or gear on a temporary basis.
Makes sense.
Moving further down the spectrum, we hit yellow,
Yellow.
which designates the creators.
Right, the missionaries.
Exactly. The visionaries, the inventors, the musicians. They possess the core ideas, but desperately need the income, the team, and the logistical support to execute a massive vision.
Which is usually the hardest part for creators.
Totally. And notably, Schnackenberg points out that he himself is a yellow. He designed this network essentially to solve his own bottlenecks.
That's fascinating.
Yeah. And then we have green, the investors. They require a return on investment and want impactful, vetted projects to back. So they offer the necessary capital to grease the wheels.
Right, but here's where it gets really interesting to me. The blue category.
Oh, yeah. Blue.
The asset monetizers. These are people with idle resources gear, real estate, software, hardware, just sitting in an attic or a garage somewhere, and they need to extract passive income from it.
Yeah, the underutilized assets.
Exactly. So imagine you, listening to this, have a high-end 3D printer gathering dust in your spare bedroom. Under the traditional model, you just, sell it on eBay to get rid of it.
Right, a one-time transaction.
Yeah, but under Kaleidicloud, by becoming a blue node, you suddenly become an active, vital piece of a global manufacturing pipeline for a yellow creator's vision.
It entirely reframes ownership into active utility. Instead of assets depreciating in isolation, they're plugged directly into a decentralized production line.
It's so cool.
And finally, to cap off the spectrum, you have purple, established businesses and organizations.
The big players.
Right. They have a constant scaling need for services, resources, and talent, and they bring institutional money to the table.
Okay, so the entire premise of the Kaleidicloud engine is mixing these colors to fulfill complex, multi-layered needs.
Exactly.
So a yellow creator might need a purple business for large-scale manufacturing, an orange freelancer to design the logo, a blue node to 3D print the prototypes, and a green investor to fund the initial run.
And the platform snaps them all together?
Right, but it isn't an absolute free-for-all open market, is it?
No, definitely not.
Because the creator places very strict, almost philosophical boundaries on how these colors are allowed to interact. There are specific chemical bonds that are explicitly forbidden.
Yeah, the ecosystem has deeply embedded guardrails.
Right.
For example, the source documents explicitly outlaw any connection between pink, the consumers, and green, the investors, if the purpose is for personal payday loans.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, business loans between nodes are perfectly acceptable within the network, but predatory personal loans are strictly forbidden because the creator deems them immoral.
Immoral and antithetical to the concept of mutual fulfillment.
Exactly.
And the creator notes that this structure stems from his own personal and religious motivations.
Right, which he's very upfront about.
Right. And what that means functionally is that Kaleidicloud is not neutral territory. It is a highly curated community exercising a distinct moral veto power. They want to ensure that every transaction aligns with the overarching ethos of the parent company, Holy LLC. It's a walled garden, But the walls are made of very specific ethical values.
A values-aligned walled garden is exactly what this is. The parent company dictates the parameters of the environment to guarantee the nature of the output.
Right.
Because if the ecosystem allowed predatory extraction, it would collapse the trust required for mutual fulfillment to actually work.
Right. The whole system falls apart. So we have this massive color-coded theoretical engine. But how does it actually produce a tangible product?
That is the big question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What does it look like when all these colorful nodes collide and spit out a finished piece of art?
Well, that leads us directly to the platform's first major initiative, basically the proof of concept for the whole system.
Okay.
The first fruit of this entire Spark beacon, it's an initiative called Golden Sounds. One word.
Golden sounds.
Yeah. It functions simultaneously as a music label, a creative network, and a distribution platform.
And to really grasp what Golden Sounds is trying to do, we have to look at what they are actively rebelling against.
Right. Status quo.
Yeah, the source directly calls out the current streaming giants. The argument is that while a platform like Spotify provides unlimited access to audio, it entirely strips away the concept of ownership.
Totally. You don't own any of it.
You're essentially just renting the right to listen to your favorite artist, and the artist is getting fractions of a penny for it.
Yeah. The Golden Sounds model attempts a radical pivot back to intentional ownership. They plan to charge $10 for a digital album.
$10.
Right. When a pink consumer pays that $10, they aren't renting a stream. They gain lifetime ownership of that specific music.
Which used to be the norm.
Exactly. Now, they do offer one free play to sample the album, ensuring the consumer actually wants it. But the ultimate goal is to forge a deeply immersive, direct connection between the listener and the artist.
Completely bypassing the passive, algorithm-driven consumption we've grown so used to. But there is a massive catch for the artist here. Golden Sounds operates with a structural constraint that feels completely counterintuitive to the modern indie music scene.
Yeah, this is the kicker.
The label does not take the artist's royalties.
Which is wild.
The artist keeps full ownership of their music, which is unheard of for a label providing this much infrastructure.
Right.
But in exchange for that unprecedented financial freedom, Golden Sounds maintains what they call creative sovereignty.
Creative sovereignty.
Yeah.
Yeah, they reserve the absolute right to oversee the direction of the art and reject anything they consider trash or dirty music.
Wow.
The baseline requirement to be released on Golden Sounds to get access to the investors, the freelancers, and the distribution is that the music must be, according to their standards, beautiful.
Beautiful. And again, looking at the motivations behind this, Schnackenberg cites the biblical book of Romans.
Right, Romans chapter 1.
Specifically focusing on the belief that God is revealed through what is created. He clarifies that it doesn't strictly have to be categorized as Christian music by genre, but the aesthetic must be undeniably beautiful and uplifting.
Right.
He uses this great analogy. A sunset doesn't need a credit screen rolling at the end for you to know it's beautiful and reflects its creator.
It's a striking image.
And fittingly, the very first album planned for the label is simply titled Sunsets.
Which, if we connect this to the bigger picture, it forces us to look at the power dynamics of this arrangement.
Yeah, absolutely.
By holding on to creative sovereignty, Golden Sounds is fundamentally acting as a brand guarantor.
The brand guarantor, right.
When a pink consumer buys a $10 album, or a green investor injects capital into a project, Golden Sounds is assuring them that the end product will strictly align with the parent company's core ethos.
They're underwriting the aesthetic.
Exactly.
So what does this actually mean for the yellow creator? Because you have this incredible tension here.
Yeah, it's a tightrope.
The platform gives artists a level of structural support, talent pairing, and financial freedom that traditional record labels would never, ever offer.
Never.
But it strictly dictates the moral and aesthetic boundaries of the content. Is this a creative utopia where you finally get the resources to make your masterpiece, or is it just a different kind of cage?
Well, it centralizes the creative veto to remove risk from the rest of the ecosystem.
Okay.
It's essentially a highly curated incubator. The artist gets the funding from the green nodes and the logistical network of the orange and blue nodes, but only if they agree to paint within the lines drawn by Holy LLC.
Right.
For artists who share those values, it's a massive accelerator. But for those who don't, the ecosystem simply won't engage.
And if the music itself has to meet this strict, overarching standard of beauty, the physical experience of buying it has to match.
Oh, the physical products are wild.
Yeah. Yes. This is where all those abstract colors of Kaleidicloud suddenly converge into a single, highly tangible object. If a consumer wants more than just the $10 digital album, they can upgrade to these incredible physical assemblage box sets.
Yeah, these aren't your standard plastic jewel cases or, like, simple cardboard vinyl sleeves.
No, definitely not.
Depending on the specific project and the nodes available in the network, these boxes are crafted from really varied materials. Cardboard, plastic, fabric.
And cocoa wood.
Yes. Or even specific materials like cocoa wood, manufactured in the Philippines, because it perfectly balances natural beauty with affordability.
It reminds me of the early days of vinyl record collecting. Buying the music wasn't just about the audio, it was an aesthetic ritual.
Yeah, an experience.
You held the art in your hands while you listened, but here they are crowdsourcing the creation of that ritual through the Kaleidicloud network.
Exactly.
And the source actually names the specific collaborators doing this to prove the concept works. You have Rusty, a woodworker, physically building the custom boxes.
Right.
You have Major Carden providing 3D printed materials.
And that right there is the blue node actively engaging.
Right.
That spare bedroom 3D printer isn't just making plastic trinkets anymore. It is now a decentralized manufacturing arm for a global record label.
That is so cool.
And the physical sets go far beyond just the packaging. They include detail booklets, lyric sheets, vintage-style viewmasters.
Viewmasters?
Yeah. And even floral arrangements or potpourri. It's really designed to be a multi-sensory immersion into the theme of the music.
But producing a custom cocoa wood box with 3D printed inserts, vintage viewmasters, and floral arrangements sounds astronomically expensive to pull off.
It does.
If you tried to do this through traditional retail middlemen, the consumer cost would be absurd and the artist would be left with pennies after manufacturing and distribution took their cuts.
Yeah, traditional margins would destroy this.
Which brings us to how this ecosystem actually handles the money. Golden Sounds relies on a radically egalitarian payment structure for the net income of each digital album. It is divided into 6 equal slices.
6 equal slices.
A 1/6 split across the board.
And to truly understand the claim of mutual fulfillment, we have to trace exactly where each of those 6 slices goes.
Let's do it.
Out of the net income, the first 1/6 goes directly to the yellow artist who created the core vision.
Okay.
The second 1/6 goes to Golden Sounds for facilitating the platform and maintaining the ecosystem. A third 1/6 goes into a pool specifically for the green investors who provided the initial capital to get the project off the ground.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
So instead of a distributor or label taking a massive 50 to 80% cut up front like they do in standard retail, they are structurally restricted to an equal 16.6% slice right alongside the artist and the investors.
Correct. The ecosystem literally enforces equity.
Wow.
The fourth 1/6 is dedicated to the actual distribution logistics.
Okay.
The fifth 1/6 pays for the contracted studio and production work. The source actually mentions the 111 studio run by Austin Perkins as an example of a contracted partner. And finally, the last 1/6 is pooled and distributed among all the other contracted Kaleidicloud colors involved in the project.
That last slice is the absolute mind-bender of this whole system.
Oh, totally.
You could theoretically have an orange freelancer who designed the potpourri arrangement
Right.
and a blue asset monetizer who printed the plastic inserts on their 3D printer.
Yeah.
Sharing in the long-tail net income split of a global music album right alongside a venture capitalist who provided the seed money, they are all tethered to the exact same financial outcome.
It completely replaces the traditional music industry intermediaries with a decentralized profit-sharing community.
That's incredible.
The distributor doesn't get to dominate the revenue stream.
Yeah.
The manufacturer doesn't charge a massive extractive markup. The ecosystem relies on flat-rate equity for every node that contributed.
Right.
It validates the physical and financial structure by perfectly closing the loop on that original premise we started with. Everyone brings a need, everyone brings a have, and everyone shares proportionally in the fulfillment.
It is a massive structural swing at completely rewriting how commerce, art, and human capital interact.
Yeah, it really is.
And it brings us right back to you listening to this right now. Because whether you're a freelancer exhausted by constantly fighting opaque algorithms just to get visibility,
Ugh, the worst.
or a consumer tired of endlessly renting your digital life through subscription models, or an investor looking for a place to put your capital that actually creates a tangible, vetted impact, this deep dive challenges us to look at our own resources differently.
It really does.
It forces us to rethink how our isolated skills or that idle gear sitting in the garage might actually fit into a much larger puzzle if we just had the right engine to connect us.
It does offer a compelling alternative to extraction, I'll say that. But it also leaves us with a lingering complexity.
Oh, what's that?
Well, if an ecosystem's financial and operational success relies entirely on the strict, centralized curation of what is considered beautiful or moral, what happens when this network attempts to scale globally? Like across vastly different cultures, traditions, and aesthetic values. Can true disruptive artistic innovation genuinely thrive within a system where the parent company always holds the final veto over what gets made?
Something for you to ponder as you look at your own resources. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us today. Until next time, what color are you in the cloud?